The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days when Emily Harris received the letter that would change everything. It arrived in a plain, cream-colored envelope with no return address, just her name and handwriting she hadn't seen since she was 10 years old. Inside was a single sentence scrawled across a yellowed piece of lined paper: "Go back to the house. Look in the cellar. Dad." Emily stood frozen in her modest Seattle apartment, the paper trembling in her fingers. Her father, Thomas Harris, had disappeared 20 years ago without a trace. Declared legally dead. No phone calls. No sightings. No closure. And now this. With a heart racing between fear and hope, Emily took a flight to the small town of Marrow Creek, Pennsylvania, where the house she hadn't seen in 2 decades still sat old, dusty, and draped in vines like it had grown tired of waiting. The town hadn't changed much. It still smelled of pine needles and old earth. But the house? It was more a memory than a home. She pushed open the creaky front door. Dust hung in the air like fog. Every step echoed off hollow walls. Childhood photos still lined the hallway, faded, crooked, untouched. A single family portrait caught her eye, her father's arm around her mother, little Emily beaming in the middle. She pressed her fingers to the glass. "Why now, Dad? Why after all these years?" The cellar door was in the kitchen, just beneath the pantry shelf. She stared at it for a long time. Her mother had always forbidden her from going down there. Too dangerous, she'd say with a sharp voice and sad eyes. It was the one place in the house they never cleaned, never spoke about. As a child, Emily once imagined it led to another world. Now, her adult hand trembled on the iron handle as she pulled it open. The hinges wailed like ghosts. A waft of cold, damp air rushed up to greet her. Each step downward creaked and moaned. The flashlight in her hand barely pierced the darkness. The cellar was musty and cluttered with old boxes and broken furniture. Just as she began to wonder what she was even looking for, her foot hit something solid, a trapdoor. Challenge 1, the unseen past. The hidden door led to a deeper room. In it, Emily found a worn wooden desk, a dusty typewriter, and dozens of journals. One journal lay open, dated 2 weeks before her father vanished. "If anyone finds this, know that I did not leave by choice. I uncovered something. Something about this town. They won't let me live if I speak it." Page after page, Thomas Harris had documented secrets about Marrow Creek, a network of corruption, illegal land deals, and dangerous people in high places. He had been a local journalist, determined to expose the truth. But the more he uncovered, the more threats he received. Emily's fingers shook as she flipped through the final journal. There was a photograph tucked between the pages, her father, standing beside a man with the town mayor's badge. On the back, in faded ink, "He knows everything." Challenge 2, facing the enemy. Emily took the journal to the police. They brushed her off, dismissing it as fiction or the ramblings of a man long gone. The mayor, still in power, publicly sympathized with her grief-fueled confusion. But privately, things took a darker turn. Her car tires were slashed. Her hotel room was ransacked. And then, a letter slipped under her door: "Leave before you end up like your father." But Emily wasn't a child anymore. She was a teacher, a writer, and a woman who had lived her life in the shadow of a question mark. Now, she had a purpose. She reached out to a national investigative journalist she once admired, John Cellar. Together, they analyzed the journals, followed the money trails her father had started, and recorded interviews with Old Town residents who had been too scared to talk back then. Challenge 3, the cost of truth. The more Emily and John uncovered, the more dangerous things became. One night, someone tried to run them off the road. Another night, they found a dead bird nailed to the front of her childhood home with a note: "Stop digging." Emily was scared. More than once, she thought of giving up. She would lie awake, heart pounding, wondering if it was worth it risking her life for a man who left her behind. But in the quiet of those nights, she'd open one of her father's journals, and always find the same message: the truth is always worth the risk. Eventually, the evidence was undeniable. Bank statements. Property transfers. Secret recordings her father had made and hidden in the cellar walls. John released a full documentary. It went viral. National media picked it up. The FBI stepped in. The mayor and 3 other officials were indicted. Land that had been stolen was returned to its rightful owners. Families who had suffered in silence for years finally spoke out. Resolution, healing, and legacy. Months later, standing in the same cellar, now clean and quiet, Emily ran her fingers over the typewriter her father once used. She decided to keep the house. Restore it. Not because it was home, but because it had become something bigger, a monument to truth, to resilience, and to the power of never giving up. She wrote a book, The Forgotten Cellar, A Daughter's Journey to Uncover the Truth. It became a bestseller. But more importantly, it gave closure to a town and to a girl who once waited at the window for a father who never came home. In her final chapter, she wrote, "I never got to say goodbye. But now, I understand. He didn't leave me, he was fighting for something he believed in. And now, so am I." In the end, the forgotten cellar wasn't just a room beneath the floor. It was a buried truth, a locked memory, and ultimately a door to justice. And as the rain fell gently on the roof of the old Harris house once more, Emily lit a candle in the cellar window. Not in mourning, but in honor. For her father. For truth. For all those who dare to seek the light beneath the darkness.